In a bustling city filled with towering skyscrapers and the hum of constant activity, Marta, a resilient widow, begins her day long before the rest of the world stirs. Life has not been easy for her since she lost her husband to a terminal illness while she was still pregnant with her son, Daniel. Despite the devastating loss, Marta refused to let despair dictate her future. She vowed to dedicate her life to giving Daniel a chance at a better life, even if it meant facing unimaginable challenges. Daniel, her pride and joy, is a brilliant student who earned a scholarship to an elite private school, a place where children of wealthy families flaunt their privilege. While his intelligence and determination set him apart, Daniel often feels the weight of not fitting in socially, surrounded by peers whose lives are a stark contrast to his own. Marta works tirelessly to support Daniel's education, selling handcrafted pastries on the bustling streets of the city. Her modest stall, tucked away near a busy corner, is both a testament to her skill and a symbol of her relentless determination. Despite their financial struggles and the judgments of others, Marta holds on to a singular dream: to see her son succeed in life, breaking the cycle of hardship that has defined her own. Marta's days begin before the first light of dawn. The kitchen in their small apartment fills with the aroma of fresh dough and sweet fillings as she carefully prepares her pastries. Each one is crafted with meticulous care, her hands moving swiftly yet gracefully as she works. Marta infuses every pastry with a part of herself, her love for Daniel and her unwavering hope for a brighter future. Once the pastries are ready, Marta heads to the bustling streets of the city, setting up her small stall. She stands for hours, enduring the scorching sun, biting cold or pouring rain, as she greets customers with a warm smile. Some are kind, regular buyers who appreciate her delicious goods, while others dismiss her with disdainful glances or curt remarks about her worn clothes and weathered hands. Marta has grown used to the occasional sneers and whispers, but each comment still stings. How can she think she'll get anywhere selling these? Or, she looks more like a beggar than a vendor. Yet Marta never lets the negativity deter her. She stands firm, her dignity unshaken, her purpose clear. Her work isn't just about survival. It's about providing Daniel with the education and opportunities she never had. At the end of each exhausting day, Marta returns home to find Daniel waiting for her with a cheerful smile. Despite her weariness, she never fails to remind him of the importance of perseverance. "Daniel," she often says, her voice firm but full of love, "every challenge you face is a step toward your future. Never forget that hard work and knowledge are the greatest tools you can have. They will take you places that others can only dream of." Daniel, inspired by his mother's strength, promises her that he will make her proud. Together they form an unbreakable bond, built on shared sacrifices, unspoken understanding, and an endless reservoir of love. In her quiet moments, Marta dreams of a day when her son will stand tall, free from the burdens of poverty, and make a mark on the world. It's this dream that fuels her through every long hour and harsh comment, her eyes set firmly on the horizon of a brighter tomorrow. Daniel walked the polished hallways of his elite private school with a quiet resolve, clutching a well-worn backpack and an aging tablet that he used for studying. As a scholarship student in a sea of privilege, he stood out, not for his intelligence, which was undeniable, but for the stark difference in his social and economic standing compared to his peers. Though Daniel excelled academically, consistently earning top marks, he couldn't escape the sharp gaze of Carter, a boy from one of the wealthiest families in the school. Carter seemed to have a sixth sense for finding anyone who didn't fit his image of wealth and status. With his air of superiority, Carter enjoyed making Daniel a target of ridicule. One morning, as Daniel unpacked his tablet to review his notes before class, Carter approached, flanked by his ever-loyal friend Logan. Carter's sneering tone was loud enough for the surrounding students to hear. "Daniel," Carter drawled, gesturing dramatically at the tablet, "is that thing even capable of turning on? Or does it run on coal? Maybe you should ask your mom to buy you something modern." Logan, always eager to follow Carter's lead, chimed in with a laugh. "Oh, wait. Never mind. I forgot your mom's probably too busy counting pennies at that little pastry stall of hers. The words stung, but Daniel refused to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. He calmly closed his tablet and stood to leave. It works just fine for what I need, he replied evenly, his voice steady. And I'd rather focus on what I can do with it than waste time worrying about impressing others. Carter smirked, unfazed by Daniel's composed response. Impressive words for someone who can't even afford lunch without charity. Let's see how far that attitude takes you in life. Logan joined in with a mock gasp. He's probably saving up for a new backpack, too. That thing looks like it survived the last century. Daniel's fingers tightened around the straps of his bag, but he kept his head high. Without a word, he walked away, leaving Carter and Logan laughing behind him. These encounters became a daily routine. Whether it was Carter making a snide remark about Daniel's clothes or Logan spreading rumors about his family, the two seemed determined to remind Daniel of his perceived inferiority. Yet despite the relentless taunts, Daniel never let their words derail him. In the classroom, Daniel thrived, impressing his teachers with his insight and determination. His natural curiosity and hunger for knowledge were impossible to ignore. During discussions, he posed questions that challenged even his instructors, and his peers, including Carter and Logan, were often left scrambling to keep up with his sharp intellect. But the praise he received from teachers only added fuel to the fire of Carter and Logan's jealousy. One afternoon, as Daniel walked out of a history lecture, Carter sidled up beside him, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Must be nice, huh? Being the teacher's pet. I bet they feel sorry for you. It's probably why they let you stay here for free." Daniel stopped and turned to face Carter, his expression calm but firm. "I'm here because I earned it, Carter, just like I earn everything else in my life." Carter's smug grin faltered for a moment, but Logan was quick to jump in. "Sure, you earned it, but let's not pretend you belong here, Daniel. You're just playing dress-up in a world you'll never be a part of." Despite their words, Daniel found solace in his own strength and his dreams for the future. Each time Carter or Logan mocked him, he reminded himself of his mother's unwavering faith in him and the sacrifices she made every day to keep him at this school. Marta's words played in his mind like a mantra. "Every challenge you face is a step toward your future." Daniel often spent his free moments in the library, burying himself in books and notes, his mind fixed on a single goal: to build a better life for his mother. He envisioned a day when she wouldn't have to stand in the sun selling pastries, a day when he could repay her for every tear and every sleepless night she endured for him. Though the bullying weighed heavily on him, Daniel resolved to rise above it. He knew that his mother's sacrifices deserved nothing less than his absolute best. Her resilience became his armor, her love his shield. For every harsh word and condescending laugh, Daniel grew stronger, turning their disdain into fuel for his ambition. Unbeknownst to Carter and Logan, their attempts to break Daniel only strengthened his resolve. He wasn't just enduring their cruelty, he was preparing to prove them wrong, to show them that success wasn't defined by wealth or privilege but by determination and character. Each day as he walked the halls of the school, Daniel carried not only his books but also the unwavering belief that his mother's dream for him would one day become a reality. And that belief was far more powerful than any taunt or insult his classmates could throw at him. As dusk painted the sky in shades of amber and violet, Marta carefully packed up her remaining pastries from the day's work. The streetlights flickered on, casting a soft glow over the bustling city street. She glanced at her watch, knowing it was time to head home. Despite the exhaustion that tugged at her limbs, the thought of seeing Daniel's face at the end of the day filled her with renewed energy. When she arrived at their modest apartment, Daniel was at the small kitchen table, his textbook spread out before him. The warm, inviting aroma of Marta's freshly brewed tea wafted through the air. Daniel looked up, his tired eyes lighting up with a smile as his mother walked in. "Hi, Mom. How was work today?" Daniel asked, standing to help her with the bag she carried. Marta returned his smile, setting the bags down on the counter. "It was a good day, my boy. I sold almost everything. And you? How was school?" Daniel hesitated for a moment. The weight of Carter and Logan's taunt still lingered in his mind, but he didn't want to burden his mother with his struggles. Instead, he focused on what mattered most to both of them. "I learned a lot today, Mom," he replied, forcing a smile. "The teachers are really pushing us to prepare for the exams." Marta's sharp eyes caught the flicker of something unspoken in her son's expression, but she chose not to press him. Instead, she placed her hands on his shoulders and looked him square in the eye, her voice filled with warmth and encouragement. "Daniel," she began, her tone soft but steady, "life will always have challenges. People may try to bring you down or make you feel like you don't belong, but remember this: every challenge is a stepping stone to something greater. You are strong, smart, and capable of achieving anything you set your mind to." Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat. His mother's unwavering belief in him was like a beacon cutting through the darkness of his doubts. He took her hands in his voice steady but full of emotion. "Mom," he said, "everything I do, every late night studying, every test I take, it's all for you. I promise you, I'll work hard, and I'll make sure your sacrifices aren't in vain. One day you'll never have to sell pastries on the streets again. I'll take care of you." Marta's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of pride. She pulled Daniel into a tight hug, her voice trembling with emotion as she whispered, "You don't owe me anything, my son. Watching you grow into the incredible young man you are is all the reward I need. But I know you will do great things. You have a light inside you, Daniel, and the world will see it one day." Later that evening, as they shared a simple meal, Marta told Daniel stories of his father, a man who had dreamed of seeing his son grow into someone who would make a difference in the world. "Your father used to say that strength doesn't come from what you have, but from what you do with what you have," Marta said, her voice soft with nostalgia. "He would be so proud of you, Daniel. Just as I am." Daniel smiled, soaking in her words. The bond between them felt unshakable, forged through years of shared struggles and unwavering support. Despite their financial hardships, Marta had always made him feel rich in love, wisdom, and values. That night, as Daniel returned to his textbooks, Marta watched him from the doorway of his room. Her heart swelled with a mix of pride and determination. She knew that life hadn't been fair to them, but she refused to let it define them. To her, Daniel was a gift, a shining example of resilience and hope. Marta resolved, as she always had, to shield him from the weight of her burdens as much as she could. He deserved to feel that he was equal to anyone in the world, regardless of their wealth or privilege. As Daniel scribbled notes, he paused for a moment and looked up at his mother. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking the quiet. "Thank you for everything." Marta smiled, her eyes twinkling with affection. "You don't need to thank me, Daniel. Just promise me one thing." "Anything, Mom," he replied. "Promise me that no matter what life throws at you, you'll never forget your worth. You're more than enough, Daniel. Always remember that." "I promise," he said, his voice filled with conviction. And as the night stretched on, both mother and son carried within them the unshakable belief that together they could overcome anything. Their bond was more than love. It was a source of strength, a foundation of hope, and a promise of a brighter future. The morning of Daniel's graduation began like no other day for Marta. As the first rays of sunlight crept into their modest apartment, she stood before the small mirror in her bedroom, holding a neatly folded dress. It wasn't extravagant, but to Marta it was a treasure, a simple yet elegant piece she had saved for months to buy. The journey to this day had been paved with sacrifices. For weeks, Marta had skipped small comforts, a cup of coffee at her usual street corner, a bus ride when she could walk, to put away the money she needed. Every coin she saved felt like a step closer to honoring Daniel's achievements. This isn't just a dress, Marta thought, running her fingers over the fabric. It's a symbol of everything we've worked for. She recalled the day she had spotted it in the shop window, a clean white fabric with delicate embroidery along the edges. It was nothing flashy, but it radiated a quiet elegance that Marta felt was perfect for the occasion. I want to be proud of how I look when I see Daniel walk across that stage, she had told herself then. And now the dress hung ready, a reflection of the pride she carried in her heart. For the first time in years, Marta decided to indulge herself with a visit to the beauty salon. As she entered the cozy little shop, the stylist greeted her warmly, sensing her nervous excitement. Marta had always avoided such places, feeling that her life didn't leave room for such luxuries, but today was different. Today was for Daniel. Sitting in the salon chair, Marta allowed herself a rare moment of relaxation. The stylist worked with care, trimming and styling her hair into soft waves that framed her face. Marta couldn't help but smile as she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. She hardly recognized the reflection staring back at her. "Your son must be so proud of you," the stylist remarked, sensing Marta's joy. Marta's smile deepened. "I'm the one who's proud of him," she replied. "He's the reason for all of this." "I've done everything I can," she thought, her chest swelling with both pride and anticipation. "Today, I'll see the fruits of all our struggles." As Marta left the salon feeling polished and radiant, she couldn't help but reflect on the road that had brought them to this moment. She remembered the countless mornings spent crafting pastries in their small kitchen, the days she braved the scorching sun or pouring rain to sell them on the streets. She remembered Daniel's unwavering support, his hugs, his smiles, his reassurances that her efforts were not in vain. Every challenge, every tear, every late night had led to this day. "He's my reason," Marta murmured to herself as she clutched the dress bag and headed home. Back at the apartment, Marta carefully laid out her dress and shoes, a pair of modest but elegant heels in a soft cream color. As she dressed, she took a moment to admire herself in the mirror. She looked poised and graceful, a stark contrast to her usual work attire. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel beautiful. "This is how I want Daniel to see me," she thought, not as someone who struggles, but as someone proud of him. When Daniel came into the room, already dressed in his graduation gown, his jaw dropped. He had never seen his mother look so radiant. "Mom," he said, his voice filled with awe, "you look incredible." Marta smiled, her eyes misting with emotion. "And you, my son, look like the young man I always dreamed you would become." They stood together for a moment, sharing a look that spoke volumes. Pride, gratitude, and love flowing between them. "Let's go," Marta finally said, her voice steady with resolve. "Today is your day, and I wouldn't miss it for the world." As they left the apartment, Marta carried herself with quiet confidence, ready to face the world and celebrate the son who had made every sacrifice worth it. This day was a testament to their shared journey, a story of resilience, love, and unshakable determination. Marta walked down the bustling city streets, her heart fluttering with anticipation. She had spent months preparing for this day, sacrificing small pleasures to afford a simple yet elegant white dress. Her freshly styled hair and polished nails were a rare indulgence, but they reflected the pride she felt for her son, Daniel. Today she was determined to stand in the audience and celebrate his achievements with her head held high. As she approached the elite school where the graduation ceremony was set to take place, Marta felt a sense of accomplishment. Every step she took in her modest heels reminded her of the countless early mornings spent baking pastries, the long days in the sun, and the unwavering determination to give Daniel the opportunities she never had. This was their day, a testament to their bond and perseverance. Near the grand entrance of the school, Marta's path was suddenly blocked by Carter and Logan, two of Daniel's classmates. She recognized them from the times Daniel had mentioned their taunts, though he always tried to downplay their cruelty to spare her from worry. Carter's eyes gleamed with malice as he took in Marta's modest attire. "Well, well," he drawled, his voice laced with mockery. "Isn't this a bit out of place? You look like you're heading to clean the kitchens, not attend a graduation." Logan snickered. "Yeah, what are you even doing here? This isn't exactly the market where you sell those little pastries." Marta's cheeks flushed, but she held her ground. She had faced far worse in her life and wouldn't let two arrogant boys tarnish this moment. "I'm here to see my son graduate," she said calmly, meeting their eyes. "He's worked hard for this, and I'm proud to stand here today." Her composed response seemed to unsettle them. Carter stepped closer, his smirk twisting into something sharper. "Sure, lady. Just don't embarrass yourself. This is a place for people who belong." As Marta turned to continue toward the venue, Logan glanced at a nearby construction area where workers had left a bucket of mud. A wicked idea flashed between the boys. Before Marta could react, Carter gave the bucket a hard nudge, spilling the thick mud across the pavement and onto her dress. Marta gasped as the cold, wet mud splattered her once pristine white gown, soaking her shoes and staining the fabric beyond repair. The boys burst into laughter, their voices echoing with cruelty. "Oops," Carter said with mock regret. "Guess white wasn't the best choice after all." Logan added, "Well, now you really look like you belong in the market. Mud suits you." Marta stood frozen for a moment, her hands trembling as she tried to brush away the mud. The dress she had cherished, the one she had worked so hard to afford, was ruined. Her pride and anticipation turned to embarrassment and pain. As the boys walked away, still laughing, Marta felt her composure falter. Tears stung her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. For a fleeting moment, she thought about turning back. It would be easier to go home, to avoid the judgmental stares and whispers that might follow her into the venue. But then she thought of Daniel. She thought of his determination, his late nights spent studying, and the way he had hugged her that morning, telling her how much her sacrifices meant to him. Marta knew she couldn't let this cruel encounter overshadow his moment of triumph. She took a deep breath, clutching her purse tightly. "No," she whispered to herself. "This is for Daniel. He deserves to see me there, no matter what." Marta found a small restroom nearby and did her best to clean the mud off her dress with paper towels and water. Though the stains remained, she straightened her posture and adjusted her hair. Her shoes squished with each step, but she held her head high. She had faced storms far greater than this, and nothing would stop her from being there for her son. When she entered the venue, Marta quietly took a seat near the back, avoiding the curious glances of other attendees. She didn't care about appearances anymore. Her focus was solely on Daniel. She sat with quiet dignity, ready to witness the culmination of their journey. The mud on her dress may have symbolized the hardships they endured, but Marta's spirit remained untarnished. She was there for her son, her love and resilience shining brighter than any stain. This was their day, and no amount of cruelty could take it away. The grand auditorium buzzed with excitement as families, students, and teachers gathered to celebrate the culmination of years of hard work. The stage was adorned with banners and flowers, a fitting backdrop for the day's ceremony. Daniel sat among his classmates, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. It was finally here. Graduation day. As the principal introduced Daniel as the class speaker, a wave of applause rippled through the audience. Daniel took a deep breath, adjusted his tie, and made his way to the podium. From his vantage point, he scanned the crowd, searching for his mother. When he spotted her near the back, his heart ached. Her dress, stained with mud, and her tired posture told a story that needed no words. He knew immediately that something had happened. Daniel began his speech as planned, his voice steady and clear. "Good evening, classmates, families, teachers, and guests. Today marks the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It's a day to celebrate hard work, resilience, and dreams." He paused, his gaze lingering on Marta. Her presence filled him with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Gathering his emotions, he continued, "Before I speak about our journey as a class, I want to take a moment to thank someone who means the world to me, my mother. Marta, you are the reason I am standing here today. Your unwavering love and sacrifices have shaped me into the person I am." The room fell silent as Daniel's tone shifted. "But today I can't simply celebrate without addressing something that weighs heavily on my heart. As I look at my mother, sitting there with her dress stained and her head held high, I feel compelled to tell you the truth, about her, about me, and about what she endured just to be here." The audience leaned in, captivated by the sudden change in his speech. Daniel's voice grew firmer. My mother is a widow. She spent years selling pastries on the streets of this city to give me a chance at a better life. Every morning before dawn, she wakes up to knead dough and bake with love and care. She faces rain, sun, and judgmental stares because she believes in me. Her sacrifices have been my foundation. Daniel's eyes flicked toward Carter and Logan, who sat stiffly in their seats. Today, before this ceremony, my mother was humiliated by two of my classmates. They mocked her appearance, spilled mud on her dress, and tried to make her feel like she didn't belong here. But let me tell you, she belongs here more than anyone. She is the embodiment of strength, resilience, and dignity. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people turned to look at the two boys. Carter's and Logan's faces turned red with shame, and they shifted uncomfortably under the weight of the audience's judgment. Daniel continued, his voice filled with resolve. For years I have endured their taunts silently, believing that my focus should remain on my studies. But today, when they disrespected my mother, I realize silence is not the answer. Injustice must be confronted. Daniel's gaze swept across the room. I share this story not to divide us, but to remind us of the values that truly matter. Success isn't measured by wealth or status, but by the kindness and respect we show to others. My mother taught me that no job is too small and no person is less deserving of dignity. I ask each of you to reflect on the kind of person you want to be. Let us choose compassion over cruelty, understanding over judgment. Tears welled up in the eyes of many in the audience. Parents clutched their children's hands, teachers exchanged solemn glances, and even some students wiped their eyes. Daniel turned back to the audience, his voice softening. And now I would like to invite the most important person in my life to join me on stage. Mom, please come up here. Marta hesitated, unsure if she could face the crowd. But as Daniel extended his hand toward her, his eyes filled with love and encouragement, she found the courage to stand. The audience erupted into applause as she made her way to the stage, her steps tentative but determined. When she reached him, Daniel took her hands and faced the crowd. This is my mother, Marta, my hero. She taught me the value of hard work, perseverance, and love. Every achievement of mine is hers, too. The applause grew thunderous, many in the audience now openly crying. Marta's face glowed with a mixture of pride and emotion as Daniel embraced her. As the ovation continued, Daniel spoke his final words. Let us remember, as we move forward into the world, that we have the power to build others up rather than tear them down. Let us honor the sacrifices of those who have supported us, just as I honor my mother today. The crowd rose to their feet in a standing ovation, the auditorium filled with the sound of clapping and cheers. Daniel and Marta stood together on the stage, a symbol of love, resilience, and the transformative power of kindness. As the applause for Daniel and Marta finally subsided, murmurs of outrage began rippling through the audience. Parents exchanged furious whispers, and students cast accusatory glances toward Carter and Logan. The once confident boys now sat stiffly in their seats, their faces pale and their eyes darting nervously around the room. Carter's parents, seated near the front row, wore expressions of utter disbelief and embarrassment. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, pillars of their affluent community, were visibly mortified. They shifted uncomfortably as the whispers around them grew louder. This is unacceptable, Mrs. Thompson hissed to her husband. How could Carter do something so cruel? Nearby, Logan's family sat in similar shame. His mother, Mrs. Harper, shook her head, her face flushed with anger. We raised him better than this, she murmured, avoiding the judgmental stares of the other parents. As the ceremony ended and families began to leave, the tension surrounding Carter and Logan only grew thicker. Some parents approached Marta, offering heartfelt apologies and words of support, while others shot scathing looks at the two boys and their families. Carter and Logan tried to slip away unnoticed, but there was no escaping the weight of the humiliation they had brought upon themselves. When Carter and his family returned to their opulent home, the silence was deafening. The usual warmth and luxury of their surroundings felt cold and oppressive. Mr. Thompson closed the door with a firm thud and turned to his son. Carter, he began, his voice low but firm, we need to talk. Carter looked down at his shoes, unable to meet his father's gaze. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, her voice trembling with anger and disappointment. "Didn't mean for it to go this far? Carter, you humiliated a woman who worked harder in a day than you've ever worked in your life, and on her son's graduation day, no less." Mr. Thompson nodded. "You've shamed not only yourself but our entire family. Actions have consequences, Carter, and it's time you learned that." Over the next hour, Carter's parents laid out a series of harsh but necessary consequences. His allowance, which had always been generous, was revoked indefinitely. "From now on," Mr. Thompson declared, "you'll be working for every dollar you spend. You'll learn the value of money and the importance of earning it." Carter's summer plans, trips with friends, and luxury outings were also canceled. Instead, his father arranged for him to work at a local community center, helping underprivileged families. "You'll spend the summer seeing how hard some people work just to survive," Mrs. Thompson added. "Maybe then you'll develop some empathy." Across town, Logan was met with similar consequences. His family, while equally affluent, had always prided themselves on teaching their children responsibility. But now, they realized they had failed. "How could you do something so heartless?" Mrs. Harper asked, her voice breaking with emotion. "That woman was just trying to support her son, and you thought it was funny to humiliate her?" Logan shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his usual arrogance nowhere to be found. "I didn't think it would be such a big deal," he muttered, but his words only made things worse. "Not a big deal?" Mr. Harper exploded. "Do you have any idea how much damage you've caused? You've tarnished not only your reputation but ours as well. And for what? To impress your friends?" Like Carter, Logan faced the loss of privileges he had long taken for granted. His planned summer vacation, a lavish trip to Europe, was canceled immediately. Instead, Mrs. Harper said, "You'll be volunteering at the food bank every weekend. You need to see what it's like for people who don't have everything handed to them." In addition to his volunteer work, Logan was required to write a formal letter of apology to both Daniel and Marta. "And you will deliver it in person," Mr. Harper said sternly. "You need to face them and take responsibility for what you've done." Over the next few weeks, Carter and Logan's lives changed dramatically. Gone were the carefree days of indulgence and privilege. Carter spent his mornings at the community center, cleaning, organizing, and assisting families in need. Each interaction was a humbling reminder of the struggles many people face daily. Logan's weekends at the food bank were equally eye-opening. Sorting donations and interacting with families who relied on the food bank's resources forced him to confront the stark contrast between his life and theirs. Both boys found themselves reflecting on their actions and the people they had hurt. The summer was long and grueling, but it served as a harsh but necessary wake-up call. Slowly, they began to understand the weight of their mistakes and the importance of treating others with dignity and respect. Months had passed since the dramatic events of Daniel's graduation. In that time, Carter and Logan had been living with the consequences of their actions. The once proud and self-assured boys now carried the weight of their guilt, replaying the events of that fateful day over and over in their minds. Every shift at the community center and every weekend at the food bank had forced them to confront the realities of the lives they had mocked so carelessly. One late summer afternoon, Carter sat on the edge of his bed staring at the apology letter he had written for Marta and Daniel. It was the fourth draft he'd written, and still, it didn't feel like enough. His father's words rang in his ears. "Taking responsibility means more than just saying sorry. You need to show that you've learned from your mistakes." Across town, Logan was having a similar moment of reckoning. After weeks of volunteering and countless conversations with the families he'd helped, he realized how much he had taken for granted and how cruel his behavior had been. Determined to make amends, he called Carter. "We need to do this," Logan said, his voice steady. "We owe them an apology. A real one." Carter hesitated, then nodded. "Let's go. It's time." Marta and Daniel's small cafe had quickly become a community favorite, known for its warm atmosphere and the handmade pastries that Marta prepared with love. That afternoon, the sun filtered through the windows, casting a golden glow on the wooden tables and colorful decorations. Carter and Logan hesitated at the entrance, their nerves getting the best of them. "What if they don't want to hear us out?" Carter asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Logan took a deep breath. "Then we'll still try. It's the least we can do." The bell above the door jingled as they stepped inside. Marta, standing behind the counter, looked up, her warm smile fading slightly as she recognized the boys. Daniel, seated at a table reviewing papers for his upcoming college courses, tensed visibly. "What are you two doing here?" Daniel asked, his tone cautious but not hostile. Carter was the first to speak. "We're here to apologize," he said, his voice shaking, "for everything we did, for what we said to you, Mrs. Marta, and for how we treated you, Daniel. It was wrong, and there's no excuse." Logan stepped forward, his expression earnest. "We've spent the last few months trying to understand the harm we caused. We volunteered at places where we met people who work as hard as you, Mrs. Marta, just to give their families a better life. It opened our eyes to how cruel we were, and we're deeply sorry." Marta studied them for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she stepped around the counter and approached the boys. "You hurt me and my son deeply," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But I also believe in second chances. If your apology is sincere and you've truly learned from your mistakes, then I forgive you." Daniel, however, remained seated, his arms crossed. "You think a few months of volunteering makes up for what you did?" he asked, his tone laced with skepticism. "Do you have any idea how hard it was for my mom that day? How hard it's been for her every day?" Logan looked Daniel in the eye, his voice steady. "No, we can't truly understand. But we've been trying to. We've learned that what we did wasn't just about words. It was about the lack of respect, the harm, and the pain we caused, and we want to make it right." Carter nodded. "We know we can't undo what we did, but we're here because we want to take responsibility. We're sorry, Daniel. Truly." For a long moment, Daniel said nothing, his gaze shifting between the two boys and his mother. Finally, he sighed. "I hope you mean that, and I hope you've really changed, because if you haven't, this apology means nothing." Logan stepped forward. "We have. I swear we have. And if there's anything we can do to prove it, we will." Daniel nodded slowly, his stance softening. "Then I accept your apology. But don't let it be empty words. Keep proving it." Marta placed a gentle hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Forgiveness isn't just for them, Daniel. It's for us, too. Holding on to anger only weighs us down. Let's let it go and move forward." Daniel looked at his mother, her unwavering strength and compassion shining through as always. With a deep breath, he nodded. "You're right, Mom." Turning back to Carter and Logan, he extended his hand. "I hope you both make good on what you've said today." The boys shook his hand, gratitude evident in their expressions. "Thank you," Carter said. "We won't let you down." As Carter and Logan left the cafe, they felt a sense of relief but also a renewed determination. They knew the road to redemption would be long, but they were committed to walking it. Inside the cafe, Marta and Daniel sat together, the weight of the past beginning to lift. "You're a good man, Daniel," Marta said, squeezing her son's hand, "and your strength will carry you far." Daniel smiled at his mother, the woman who had taught him the values of compassion and resilience. "Thanks, Mom. I learned from the best." With that, they turned their attention back to their future, one built on hope, hard work, and the belief that even the deepest wounds can heal. The months following Daniel's graduation were a whirlwind of change and growth for Marta and Daniel, as they embarked on a brighter, more hopeful chapter in their lives. The challenges they had faced had shaped them, but they were determined to move forward, building on the foundation of resilience and love that had carried them this far. Marta's long-held dream of owning her own bakery finally became a reality. With Daniel's help, she transformed a small, empty storefront into a cozy haven, filled with the sweet aromas of her handcrafted pastries. The bakery, aptly named Marta's Kitchen, was a reflection of Marta's warmth and dedication. The walls were adorned with photos of their journey, pictures of Marta selling pastries on the streets, and a framed image of Daniel at his graduation, standing proudly beside her. Every corner of the bakery told their story, a testament to the power of perseverance. On opening day, a crowd of customers gathered to support Marta's new venture. Friends, neighbors, and even some of Daniel's former teachers came to celebrate. Marta stood behind the counter, tears of joy welling in her eyes as she served the very pastries that had once been her lifeline. "Welcome, everyone," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "This bakery is not just mine, it's ours. It's built on love, sacrifice, and the belief that hard work and kindness can change lives." The bakery quickly became a neighborhood favorite, known not only for its delicious treats, but also for the warmth and community it fostered. Marta, no longer weathering the streets, found fulfillment in her new role as a business owner, greeting each customer with the same kindness she had shown all her life. Meanwhile, Daniel thrived at college, carrying with him the lessons his mother had taught him. His natural intelligence and determination set him apart in his classes, but it was his humility and work ethic that earned him the respect of his peers and professors. "I'm here because of my mother's sacrifices," Daniel often said when asked about his motivation. "Her strength inspires me to give my best every day." He excelled in his business courses, applying what he learned to help Marta expand her bakery's reach. With his guidance, Marta's Kitchen began catering to local events and partnering with community organizations to provide baked goods for charity drives. It was Daniel's way of ensuring his mother's legacy continued to grow and touch more lives. Carter and Logan, on their own paths of redemption, began turning their lives around. Inspired by their conversations with Marta and Daniel, they threw themselves into community work with genuine dedication. Carter started volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring underprivileged kids. Over time, he realized that giving back brought him a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. "This is how I make up for the mistakes I've made," he often told the kids. "By helping others, I'm learning to be a better person." Logan, on the other hand, used his family's resources to organize food drives and fundraising events for families in need. He also became an advocate for anti-bullying programs in schools, using his past mistakes as a powerful lesson for others. "I know what it's like to make the wrong choices," Logan would say in his talks. "But I also know it's never too late to change." Their efforts didn't erase the harm they had caused, but they demonstrated their commitment to becoming better people. Slowly, Carter and Logan began to rebuild trust within their community, proving that redemption was possible with genuine effort. One sunny afternoon, Marta and Daniel stood outside the bakery watching customers come and go. Marta's heart swelled with pride as she looked at her son, now a confident young man on the brink of a promising future. "You've made me so proud, Daniel," Marta said, her voice thick with emotion. "Everything we've been through has brought us here, and I couldn't ask for more." Daniel smiled, wrapping an arm around his mother. "It's because of you, Mom. This bakery, my education, it's all because of your sacrifices. And I promise, I'll keep making you proud." As the two stood there, Logan and Carter walked up to the bakery, carrying a box of supplies for the local food drive they had organized. Seeing Marta and Daniel, they paused, their expressions a mix of gratitude and humility. "Marta, Daniel," Carter said, "we just wanted to thank you again for giving us the chance to make things right. You've taught us more than we ever thought possible." Marta smiled warmly, extending her hand. "It's never too late to learn and grow. Keep doing good work. You're proving that change is always possible." As the seasons changed, so did the lives of Marta, Daniel, Carter, and Logan. Each step they took toward the future was filled with purpose, built on the lessons they had learned. Marta's Kitchen became a symbol of resilience in the community, a place where everyone was welcome and kindness was baked into every treat. Daniel continued to excel, his dreams growing bigger with each passing day. And Carter and Logan, once symbols of privilege and arrogance, became advocates for compassion and respect. Together they showed that even in the face of adversity, brighter days were always ahead for those willing to work toward them. The past had shaped them, but it didn't define them. Their futures were theirs to create, filled with hope, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds of love and community. Marta and Daniel's journey teaches us all to value hard work, respect, and kindness. In a world where it's easy to judge others based on appearances or circumstances, their story challenges us to look deeper, to find the humanity in everyone we meet. Every person carries a story, a struggle, and a dream. When we choose empathy over judgment, compassion over cruelty, we create a world where resilience and kindness can flourish. As Marta and Daniel locked up the bakery for the night, they stood together under the soft glow of the streetlights. The quiet moment was a stark contrast to the challenges they had faced and overcome. Hand in hand, they looked toward the future, not just for themselves, but for everyone inspired by their story. To all who hear their journey, let it serve as a reminder. Life is full of hardships, but resilience, forgiveness, and love can transform even the toughest trials into opportunities for growth and change. If this story has touched your heart, let Marta and Daniel's journey inspire you to act with kindness and empathy in your own life. And remember, together, we can build a world where hard work, respect, and love are celebrated. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's spread the message of resilience and compassion far and wide. Until next time, keep believing in the power of love and perseverance.